Hi, I'm Ann and he's Chris, and
Hey,
we're Maritime Heritage Minnesota. And today we're talking about the fiberglass wrecks in the Minnesota lakes that we have documented so far. These are just the wrecks that we have found and that we are documenting that happen to be made out of fiberglass. There's several lakes that we're going to look at today. And firstly, though,
the-
Chris and I are the underwater archaeologists for Maritime Heritage Minnesota.
these are our divers, our volunteer divers, and our board trustees, and our volunteers, plus our two cats.
Yeah, that's Freddie Mercury and Rodney McKay are our mascots. Beyond our diver volunteers, we do have, a dive crew like Ann Hoig and volunteer Betty Lloyd, who does other work for us they're non-divers. So this is mowing the lawn.
Yeah, this is what we do when we come to a lake. We'll do a scan around the edges of the lake with our sonar. Then we'll start what's called mowing the lawn, where you basically go back and forth, like when you mow a lawn, moving over, in our case, about 250 feet at a time. Later, we've changed that to a much narrower transects, but we move them over and just
Back and forth,
go back and forth and cover the whole lake.
And we do this sometimes when we go back, we do a lake twice and do it in the opposite direction. Wind is a big deal, so sometimes the wind dictates which direction we go. And we also do targeted sonar scanning if we want to look at certain anomalies that we've identified in the footage, and we'll go back and do targeted. Most of this lake, this is very nice looking, but if I put all of our transects on there, it'd be a big mess because we go back and rescan.
And that's our boat, Anomaly 51. We initially started our surveying in a 12-foot Alumacraft, so this was kind of a nice step upwards for us.
This is a very luxurious. Yeah, it's great. The lakes we're going to look at today that have fiberglass wrecks in them include Lake Minnetonka and Prior Lake, and a sneezy cat. That's Rodney with a sneeze. He's got a cold or he's allergic to something. Lake Pulaski, Lake Johanna, and Lake Pulaski. I learned to swim in Lake Pulaski, and Medicine Lake. So the first wreck that we're going to show you is the Shell Lake Portager wreck.
We're listing these wrecks chronologically from date of build.
Not when they sank, the date of construction. And what's interesting about the Portager was a model that Shell Lake Company out of Wisconsin put out in the mid-60s. This one, however, is a prototype. It definitely is from the late 40s. This is like right after World War II. And it's slightly different than the Portager in that picture. That is the 1965 Portager, 66. This one was made in the late 1940s. It does not have a registration number, so it means it sank before 1959. And the painting color is dead grass. Now we find some
That's
different.
An actual color you could get in.
That's the name of it.
From various companies. They had a color called dead grass.
Dead grass. It's a boat color. But this one's interesting because it's very clunky, boat-like, almost tub-like. Boat tub, and it says Shell Lake definitely there, the word that says Shell Lake. It's all busted up, but it is definitely Shell Lake.
Logo was busted up, but there was enough of it left that we could suss out the name.
And I did contact the Historical Society in Shell Lake and the actual company and stuff, and they don't have any information on something like this. They did not know there was a prototype.
There is a builder's number on the transom there on the center right picture, but
they didn't have any information about those numbers we gave them. So this is the oldest one that we've been able to identify as being that age. Then we got the Hydroplane wreck, which is an interesting, almost modern looking wreck that is nearly as old as the Portager. But when she went down, she's obviously up in the water column a little bit, and then on her port side.
This one was probably deliberately scuttled because the motor, whenever we find a boat without its motor, it's probably a result of somebody trying to dispose of a boat they no longer wanted.
Yeah.
People normally don't get rid of motors, no matter how decrepit they might be.
Yeah, and so what's interesting about this, it has wings on the bottom, probably for stability more than anything else, because if you take those wings away, this thing's gonna roll over. It's just a bowl. Mm-hmm. And also, we've been finding and looking at certain boats, when they have wings like this, it creates a hard chine. That hard chine also helps with water. So it acts like a splash rail. So water isn't gonna be splashing to people, but something like this, which there's a racing boat, their biggest concern was flipping over. So we don't
kind of a racing type steering wheel, actually more like an airplane
Yeah,
steering wheel.
aviation steering wheel. And she's painted red inside. It's really obnoxious. Go figure. So she does have a bit of wood in there, wood frame, wood for the where the engine well, the motor well, what it was. But other than that, nice, thick, heavy fiberglass. This one, early. Herters, yay, Herters. Waseca, Minnesota.
If you know of Herters, you'll know that they're the world famous Herters.
World famous for everything.
They spared no expense in telling everybody in their advertisements that they're world famous.
Mr. Herters, world famous guy. What they most are famous for though are duck decoys and duck calls, and I think, and they also made cartridges for shotguns and many other outdoorsy things. But a lot of people don't realize they did make boats, and lots of them. And they had their boats in a catalog. You could kind of choose your boat out of a catalog if you wanted to. This boat is relatively plain compared to the ones with the 1950s ones with wings, and they're really fancy fiberglass, shiny. There's actually a group of people that collect these Herters boats that are just fantastical, wonderfully wingy, fantastically looking boats. This one's a little more plain.
Yeah, we were able to get the registration number off of it just barely, because normally this area of the lake is not known for its visibility. And
you can see the number in that one picture, clearing away the silt just a little bit, and there's the number.
Yeah.
And
yeah, there's the square in the back is actually a cinder block with a 12-volt battery sitting next to it.
And so you can see with the sonar image on this one, the sonar image is almost like a photograph. And this is our new sonar unit. The old sonar unit we had did record this wreck when we were doing survey, but nothing nearly like this definition. So that's really great to have when we dive on wrecks like this. And we say 1972 or later because she does appear in the records of the DNR. When we get a registration number, 2099BE, contact the DNR, got a couple contacts there, and they can tell us certain information about these numbers. They don't tell us who owned it, where they lived or anything like that, but we can find out what they were told, meaning what the state was told is the brand, sometimes the year built, and sometimes a model, but very rarely, and what year she was built and when the last time she was registered. Doesn't mean all that information is correct, but it's what the state
Sometimes
has.
It's not even there.
Yeah, so.
Oh, and that little, on the drawing, we have that little kind of a oblong-ish shaped object next to the boat. That's actually the windshield.
Has come off.
Has come off and lying alongside.
Lying next to it. So another fiberglass outboard wreck in Lake Pulaski. Now, initially this looked like an aluminum wreck, but it is definitely fiberglass. And again, we've got a registration number, which is great, but we don't know if that information doesn't seem correct because the information that the state gave us is that she's an Alumacraft. Alumacraft obviously built aluminum boats, from Minneapolis, but they did also build fiberglass boats into the 50s and 60s, but that was Alpex. It was like a division of Alumacraft. So this might be an Alpex, but we couldn't find what Alpex, no information at all. So I don't think it's Alumacraft. It's some other fiberglass boat builder. We don't know which one. It very well could turn out to be an Alpex. We just haven't found this model yet in literature. I don't know. She's just we can't say too much about her, that she's just a nice little fiberglass boat.
This is one we just found about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and that anomaly number is wrong. It's actually 984. Let me correct that. So if you look for that wreck in our records, I will change that 994. It's 984. It was a typo on my part, but she is definitely a Larson All-American.
Yeah, we found, well, you see the sonar image shows it standing on end. We were able to confirm that it is sitting on its motor slightly tilted over to the port side.
Yeah, and on gravel, so you can really see the motor and everything. She's just sitting on the propeller and up in the water column. There's lots of flotation in a Larson All-American. Cleaned off
It also had the Curtis Wright steering wheel.
Curtis Wright steering, but it's the hands-free steering wheel. We'll see pictures of that on another wreck later. But the wreck itself looks like this white one with the blue stripe. We have just finished documenting 3D scanning and documenting a white and red one that is housed at the Minnesota Historical Society. That is a 165 All-American. It's just red instead of the blue. And so we knew a lot about that brand when we documented this wreck a few weeks ago. There's no pictures right now because we haven't had a chance to actually edit those pictures into something, so we couldn't really use them, but we will in our report, certainly.
It is a blue blue and white color scheme, much like the upper center picture.
And we're not sure of her number. She's 3557 or 3567. I currently have a request into the DNR to clarify that. What they'll do is give me information on both of those numbers, and we'll see if they match what we have. So we're just waiting on that, and she's just a neat 165 standing on it. The Owens.
Yeah, this one, a local informant told us about this, and he said it was a victim of the 1965 tornado that ripped through the area. We found that the registration number on that kind of disproved that statement, because it actually sank sometime in the late 80s.
Yeah, so what's interesting about it sank on purpose, or at least when it didn't have its motor.
Yeah.
She doesn't have zebra mussels on her, and she's only in 24 feet of water, and that's interesting. But the reason we found the 7072 EU, you can see the registration number, the top picture there, we had to move silt away and get a camera down in there, and we just barely could see it. And there's not a whole lot we can say about her except that she was sunk in this air with her brass still on, which is interesting. A lot of times they'd be stripped. But she's just a nice example of a little fiberglass boat on the bottom of the lake.
Owens Twin Sport.
And not the greatest visibility at times, sometimes good, sometimes bad. And she does look like this boat right here. That is a twin sport, except ours is red and that one's blue. But lack of zebra mussels is very, interesting. We make notes of those things. Why is that?
This one we figure is a victim of the 1965 tornado.
And it's full of zebra mussels.
Yeah, it was in a pretty battered state. The interior was pretty much blown out of it. The steering wheel is damaged. The windshield is gone. We think it was probably at a dock when it was blown out, because the motor is in the stowed position.
Yeah, it's up like that. And what's interesting is we did not know what kind of boat this was, what brand. Chris was cleaning off the transom, and the builder's plate.
Yeah, I was looking at these builder's plates when they came off in my hand.
So because they came off, he did raise them. One's from the Outboard boating club. That was the people, they would get a brand of this boat is rated for so many, pounds and how many people it can take and all that sort of thing. Well, Chris brought them up, and I cleaned them. I did some conservation on them, and we found Blue Star of Miami, Oklahoma. We didn't know they built boats in Miami, Oklahoma in the early 1960s. And I can't find a picture of a Blue Star Miamian anywhere. The only reason we know it's a Blue Star Miami custom is the blue book, like for boats. I found the information there and it matches this, but that picture right there is not a Blue Star Miami. I think that's probably a Lone Star, but they're very similar boats. I can't find a picture of one from 1961. I found a 1957 Blue Star Miamian, but that has the big wings like the 1950s cars. So we'd love to see a picture of one of these. If someone owns one, send us a picture. But you'll know, it gets you a hull number. It gets you all the information that you need to know about this Blue Star Miamian. And what we did, though, we cleaned up the builder's plate and the Outboard Boating Club plate, put them in a waterproof plastic bag with our explanation of why they're loose, who we are, and what we were doing and what date we did it. And then Chris took it and attached that bag back to the deck of the boat, of the wreck.
Yeah, the plywood floor.
Yeah.
And just screwed it into that.
So that we told the Department of Natural Resources, because at the time it hadn't been an archaeological site yet, and the Office of the State Archaeologist, we told them exactly what we did, and we got a site number for this wreck, obviously. And we just want to make sure because we are not looters. We do not loot. We do not take things off of wrecks. So we want to put it back in place and for future archaeologists and people to learn from. So neat little wreck with a really nice super seahorse. Johnson super seahorses appear on so many boats, including this one. And the drag boat.
Yeah.
Up in the water column.
Yeah,
again.
another one that hit stern first, and the area in the lake is pretty low visibility, so it was kind of lucky we even got the pictures that we got. And was able to grope around in the mud. The engine's totally buried, but I was able to determine it was either a 6 or a V6 or a V8. Yeah, it's very similar to the picture on the lower right-hand corner, the yellow hull boat.
But these are different kind of drag boats, and Stevens company out of California built drag boats back in the late 50s, early 60s. And this boat definitely sank prior to 1972, because the records from the Department of Natural Resources, when it became that name, the Department of Natural Resources, 1972, the Department of Conservation, that's what it was called before that, they destroyed all the records from 1959 to 1972 when they moved offices. So we have no information, registration information from those years.
The past isn't as well documented as you might think.
Yeah, so with this one, we do know she sank prior to 72 and probably 63, 64 because of the stickers. She didn't have a lot of stickers on her for the validation stickers. She's blue and white, so she doesn't have the same coloring as the other ones we have in the picture, but we just can't say a whole lot about her because but definitely sank probably 63, 64, and definitely prior to 72. Another one up in the water column in Prior Lake. The Glassbar G3 ski boat wreck, and Chris mentioned the hands-free. Yeah. You see that on the hub?
On the center
That's a logo. Curtis Wright hands-free type of steering that they made, that they sold to different boat companies. The Larson that we documented at the Minnesota Historical Society has that. And this wreck has it, and other wrecks have it, including the Larson that's on the bottom of the lake has that. So that's it. The reason that logo is important is because that can sometimes determine what model a wreck is or a boat is, and it certainly does in the case of Larson. But this had a big motor on it.
What seems to be typical of motors of that era is that they have these huge looking power heads that are only like 40 horse when you're expecting something of 100 or more.
And it's only 40. And this one, it did sink prior to 1972, did not appear in the records anywhere. And the reason we say 68, 69 is this Budweiser beer can. I contacted some professor who is a beer can specialist. He likes to study beer cans. And he took one look at it. Oh, that's a 1968. And okay. And this certainly sank before 72. So we'll say 68. And who knows what they were doing when they sunk the boat. But you see, we have several things that are telling us glass bar. And you'll see that one plate says Lucky Marine. Lucky Marine is in Hopkins, Minnesota. So that's where the company was who sold this boat to somebody on Prior Lake who then sank it. Oops.
This is kind of an example of, even innocuous artifacts like a beer can help us out a lot in identifying things.
Don't ignore things. I mean, you don't ignore what's on these wrecks, because sometimes things float into wrecks and they don't belong there. This was buried underneath some, we had found, it was in there set. So we don't uncover things, but this one was sticking out. We just uncovered a little bit and found out, it was dateable. So Span America.
This is probably another boat that just outlived its usefulness to somebody, and they scuttled it after taking off anything valuable.
And Span Company, a lot of people have never heard of it. They started in Iowa, then moved to Minnesota to Red Wing, and then moved for their last few years into Wisconsin. The reason we know this one was built in Red Wing, this is a Minnesota built boat, is because that logo was used in 1962, and that is the year of this boat, this Nomad. And she sank in around 1993, because that's when she was last registered. We checked all of her information. So she definitely is a Span, and you can see by the logo, the underwater picture compared to the logo that we have right there. It's the same logo. Can't say a whole lot about her except she was sunk on purpose, and she's a Span America Nomad.
Yeah.
Oh, the Fern Burn fiberglass.
Yeah, this was in an area of the lake that doesn't have good visibility, and so bad, in fact, that we initially thought it had a single outdrive when it in fact had two.
Yeah, it's
one of the engines apparently was salvaged. It had a straight 4-cylinder engine.
Or
Still
blew off. I mean,
maybe.
It's one of that probably salvaged. That because that's expensive.
Probably be a little more destroyed. But
yeah, or we could find it nearby or something.
But second time we dove on it, we found it actually had two outdrives. So and yeah, very, very burned.
And it burned to the water line. You can see the boat was white originally. That's just scudge. It's white, and where it stopped, where the water it hit the water at the water line, it stopped burning. So you can see that, and the two pictures on the left, where it stopped burning, it's a rather sharp edge, but then you see the fiberglass, it's threads. So it does show how fiberglass burns. Fiberglass burns like thread.
The mesh is the mesh part of the fiberglass.
Yeah. And so we say it's composite because it does have some attributes of plywood, especially the transom. And you can see that in the pictures on the right, where the ring for tie down ring, the U-bolt, that's wood. That had fiberglass on the outside of it at one time, but now it's burned off and it's just the wood left over, charred wood. So really interesting wreck. We did, from the information we got off of her and work research, she sank in late June of 1965. There's a complete story about this, and it matches completely with what we found. So we're pretty confident about that date. We couldn't see, obviously, a registration number because her hull burned. So we had to rely on the historical research and the condition at the wreck site. Yeah. So the Jetstream wreck, another Minnesota boat, Red Wing.
Another one that was basically stripped and scuttled.
And what's interesting about this, you see that says the Bosom. These are two different boats. The Bosom is a Mariner brand boat, not a Jetstream, but Jetstream went out of business and Mariner bought a lot of its inventory, the hulls anyway. And you look at that hull, it almost looks like a Span America hull. And Span America, when it went out of business, sold its hulls to different companies too, to its inventory that it had left. So while it's not a Bosom, it looks a lot like this.
Yeah, it even has on the quarters there, you can see a little round emblem.
Yep.
That matches the exact position that's on our Jetstream here.
Yeah, and so the Mariner had that. That's definitely a part of the deal with the Bosom and the Jetstream. It sank on purpose because there's no motor, so someone just wanted to get rid of this old fiberglass boat. And she obviously was in the records because she sank prior to 1987. We got the information from the DNR, but if you look, she still has several of her validation stickers. And we do know before 1987, because of those dates, plus they started making them square after a certain amount of time. These are all Minnesota shaped, not square shaped. So those are little bits and pieces we can put together to figure out the histories of some wrecks. Forster Shigawa canoe. This is the first fiberglass canoe we found. We've identified some since, but when we first went over the top of her 2012 and during a survey, we went over the top. So you see that sonar picture, she's like curled up like she's driving on the bottom. That's a down image. The side image is our new sonar.
We were excited because we thought we found a Viking longship.
Don't even go there. Don't joke. People do believe this stuff. But the Shigawa canoe, we got some great detail with the new sonar, actually seats and thwarts and those sorts of things. And there's not a whole lot to say except that she's a fiberglass Forester from her nameplate, Shigawa from her size and design that we found in some records on the internet. Sank 80 to 82, that's all we can really say. We don't have her registration number because we couldn't read it, but we can read that sticker. It's definitely the one from 80 to 82. So just bad visibility area. When we went down to dive on her, I couldn't find her because she was behind me, and Chris went, oh shoot, I was looking around, couldn't see her. She's directly behind me. I was like a foot from where she was and I couldn't see it. Oops. So anyway, oh well. Another boat in the water column. Yay. Red Fiberglass Wreck. Anyone can tell us the brand of this boat, we'd appreciate it. She's got a Volvo Penta engine. But that's great. It doesn't mean it's a Chrysler though. Chrysler, Volvo, Penta. Chrysler built boats. People don't know that, but they did build boats in the late 60s and 70s. Initially, we thought it was a Span because 3752EG is registered to a Span America, but that's not what this is. Someone told the DNR it was Span America, but it's not. Yeah. But she sank in 89 from the information that we've got through the DNR and from her stickers. What's interesting about her, she went down, flipped over and sank this way. We found a blue duffel bag on board, sitting actually in the silt. It just, fallen right off the boat into the silt. And we decided, we're diving on this, and we looked at, we should raise this because that's personal property. Maybe we could get an ID inside the duffel bag. So we did, along with our volunteer Mark, we raised her up.
Finding out the backstories to these wrecks is kind of finding the holy grail for us.
And we don't normally take things off wrecks. We are allowed to take samples like a wood sample or fiberglass sample or metal sample, but we do not take artifacts. We do not move artifacts because phase 1 archaeology is do no harm and do no movement of things.
Basically
and
just reconnaissance.
Reconnaissance. And so, but we figured, it's loose and we brought it up and did have a license in its wallet. And we found the wallet and we found a shirt from the 1987 World Series. Yep. And we found some New Balance shoes and soggy cigarettes and a handful of change. Zuba the Zuba pants that we used to wear in the 80s, those obnoxious Zuba pants and they were purple tiger stripe, like for the Vikings. So we found all this stuff. We found the license,
The guy's driver's license.
figured out who he was. And then we contacted the Hennepin County Sheriff's Water Patrol, on Lake Minnetonka, told them what we had. We also contacted the DNR and the Office of the State Archaeologist to tell them that we'd raised this bag and that it's personal property. We're going to attempt to return it to its owner, and everyone was in agreement that that was an okay thing to do. And so we gave the sheriff the information. The sheriff contacted the guy's hometown that he lives in now in Wisconsin. The sheriff in Wisconsin went to the guy's house and said, some archaeologists found your bag on this boat, and if you want it back, you can go get it. He came and got it the next day. He called us on the phone, told us how the boat sank, which is what we were interested in. Turns out it wasn't his boat. Oops, it was a friend's boat, and he was moving it from one place on the lake to another place, and it seems that the boot blew. The boot meaning the rubber.
It's kind of a seal between the outdrive and the hull.
Yeah, and so once it's winter, it's underwater, obviously, in the outdrive, water went rushing right in. It sank in minutes. He said that he actually hired a diver friend of his to go look for it. A day or two later, he couldn't find it until we came across it. From our sonar survey, systematic sonar survey, we found it. So he got his duffel bag back, and he's very happy. He's originally from Richfield, Minnesota. And he went to his mom's house and he washed up his shirt and he put it on and he gave us a call. So he was wearing his 1987 World Series shirt that was a part of a wreck for over 20 years, almost 30 years. So if anybody can tell us this is not a Span, it's not a Chrysler, we do not know someone painted over or something, the logos. We just do not know what kind of brand boat this is. And the Fiberglass Outboard Wreck in Medicine Lake.
Yeah. Very low visibility, so couldn't really get any good views of it.
And she initially thought she was aluminum. She's not. She's fiberglass. And so that's one hard thing diving with low visibility. Sometimes we can't tell if something's aluminum or if it's fiberglass. Usually wood is pretty easy.
You almost have to drill into the hull, and that's not something archaeologists like to do unless it's absolutely necessary.
Or scratch it, paint, and that sort of thing. But you can determine aluminum versus fiberglass at least later in video seams. Is it riveted? What kind of, and it sometimes can be steel too, but usually steel is easier to differentiate than aluminum. But the seams, the rivets, how is it built? If you have the registration number, that can obviously help sometimes, but sometimes not. So don't have a whole lot to say except she's a small fiberglass fishing boat. Another canoe.
Yeah, this is
Bemidji Boat Company was new to me. I didn't know that.
Pulaski.
Yeah, Core Craft. That's their brand of canoe, and they do have this logo here. It's kind of an arrow, stylized arrowhead thing, and the wreck does have that. So that was very helpful when we're looking to figure out this canoe. And the canoe, it looks orange, but it's really red. The orange is just the color because of the green in the water column. But it's a red canoe like this one. The symbol in the middle, it doesn't have that specific symbol in the middle on the outer hull. I think this one's earlier than the picture, but that's the type it is.
Pulaski's kind of unique. It's clear usually, but it's silty bottom, so you don't want to. The moment you touch bottom, you kick it up, and visibility just goes to hell. And
it's a relatively deep lake. It's spring fed, so like Chris said, it's clear, but it can be dark. If the sun doesn't get down to the bottom, it can be dark. The water clarity is fine, but it's dark, so you still need big lights.
In deep areas, you need a light.
So that's all we can really say is it's a red canoe from Core Craft, made in Minnesota, another Minnesota wreck. Royal American Surfmaster, another weird thing with this one.
In Lake Pulaski.
It has its boat cover on it. You can see the cover here being kind of pulled up by our volunteer Mark. So
we're speculating that it might have been another maybe summer storm or tornado.
Yeah, it took this one.
Got blown away from the dock. There's some lines still attached to it.
But she sank in 1974 because it was only 2 years old at the time. Her registration ended really quickly on this one. And you see, the line is straight cut. Was it being told and they had to cut it because it started to sink? Like, did they forget to put the plug in? Or did it just break off at a dock and float and blow out? We don't know. But she's dead grassy color, sort of. But she looks like this is the style of boat, though. It's not red, but looks like that. Or she is red. No, I think she's red. It's just dull, isn't it? Yeah, that's not grass. It's not. I don't think it's this. You think it's that color?
I think it's that color.
Okay, we're not sure. I think she might be red. Chris thinks she's might dark dead grassy. But anyway, another fight. That's what the kind of discussions we have at home. But you know she's a Royal American from that logo, that badge. It almost looks like, you know, the Interstate Highway System badge, kind of. And Royal American was known as North American at first, then became Royal American, and then went away after a while. So, but we couldn't see any of her seats or anything because, you know, she's got her cover on her. So that's kind of interesting. We have to go to these other examples to see what she looked like on the inside. Fiberglass sailboat.
Yeah, this is
Larson.
First fiberglass sailboat we found.
Yeah, and the registration information, you can see she's another one from the Deep Haven dock. Again, Deep Haven did not keep the records, so don't know if what, you know, number 349. Yeah, we don't know who owned it, but
had a nice big hole in its port bow.
Yeah, it sank for obvious reasons.
Well, I think
that's
an
anchor.
I think it was one of those. It was a derelict they wanted to get rid of.
Right. But what's interesting about it, the records from that the DNR have said it's a Larson fiberglass. And Larson did build fiberglass boats. It very well could be. There's just no Larson logo on it. We cannot say for sure that it's a Larson, that she's a Larson. So it's just a hull of a fiberglass boat sitting on the bottom. This is interesting. I was for sure that this was going to be a pontoon boat like we have had before, a pontoon wreck. And it turns out it's a catamaran. And this is our only catamaran we've ever identified.
In Lake Johanna.
Of all places, Little Lake Johanna. And she's flipped over.
And cinder blocks put on to keep her down.
Yeah, and you can see. So did they flip her over on the surface, put cinder blocks in her and sink her? You look at her, she's got the two red validation stickers, they're round. One has a hole punched in it. That hole would allow water to go into the pontoon bit. And then they had her flipped over. So they sank her on purpose to get rid of her, as far as we can tell, but they left her rudders on.
Yeah,
she's a great little wreck.
Didn't do a thorough job of stripping it, in my opinion.
We can't see the number, though. There is a number on her round sticker.
Yeah, on one side.
We can't see it.
Number, and on the other side, they put the hole right where the number would be.
So because of low visibility and things wear off over time, I couldn't contact the DNR about this one because we didn't have any information to give them. We couldn't give them a registration number. If we go back maybe with stronger lights, maybe we'll be able to see it. But you see this picture of the catamaran with the colorful sail. That's an Alumacraft catamaran. They did, Alpex, you know, the company, the subsidiary did build catamarans out of fiberglass. And whether this one's an Alumacraft or Alpex, don't know. But it's similar in the way it looks. So it's a neat little wreck. And the Delta Cruiser.
This is a bit of a puzzle because figured it sank very shortly after it was purchased.
Yeah,
and it's
very soon.
And it's only in 15 feet of water, which would have made it easy to salvage, but it wasn't.
Insurance scam? We don't know. We don't know why she's there. We don't know why she sunk or how, but just inundated with zebra mussels. It's one big monster zebra mussel. And we did her registration number. Of course, the state did have that because of the 1980s. And we just, from all the attributes, Larson Delta Sport Cruiser 7000. You see the Larson logo right there. That is only used during certain years. And the 7000 is the different things on the boat make it a Delta Cruiser 7000. We know she was constructed in 1980 and was out of the DNR records by 82. And that's what her sticker is too. So this is one heck of a mistake. Very expensive boat. Only on the water for 2 years or less. So she's a nice dive, very shallow, but full of weeds and full of zebra mussels.
Right in the middle of a big weed patch. So.
And she's got a nice cuddy. You could sleep in there. It had a small kitchen area. But, you know, it's down in the bottom of the lake for the last, you know, almost going on 40 years now. So, and one thing with the sonar, initially in 2012, when we sonared her, didn't pick it up right away that it was a wreck, but this is our newer sonar through weeds, and our sonar picked up her outline. You can see that outline of the boat. Even through weeds, the new one can do that, and that's very helpful for us. Not always, but sometimes. Oh God, the Spirit Marine wet bike. I just put this whole description of how they used Spirit Marine wet bikes. The precursor to the Wave Runner, And it's Arctic Cat, but built by Arctic Enterprises. It's a Minnesota wreck.
Built and sunk.
Yeah, built and sunk. What's interesting for me is that James Bond in the movie The Spy Who Loved Me carried it in a bag, and all of a sudden and said, I gotta put and they opened up and they put it together and then zipped out of some evil guy's big floating
Lair.
boat thing lair. I don't know if he went underwater with this. I don't know. But he had it in a bag. This thing's several hundred pounds with the motor, so you can't carry it around in a bag. It's hilarious. I got the movie from the library and watched this.
That was a bit of a spit take.
Just hilarious. But all the wave runners that we have now, this is the mama of those wave runners. Although there were some older Arctic Cat type wave runners, they literally look like snowmobiles, but they didn't last or didn't work out very well. So then this one, the Sea-Doo, in 68 and the jet ski in 73, then you get this. So, and this is what has gone into wave runners. So it's just one of those weird things why is it on the bottom of the lake? These things are supposed to float. Who knows? But there it is. And it's full of zebra mussels. It looks like a snowmobile underwater, but it's a wet bike. The Chris Craft.
Yeah, we found this last year.
Yeah, identified it last year. Yeah. We got her registration numbers right there, and the DNR had the information. Again, big mistake. This was a new boat. This was $45,000 minimum.
Seems like it was being towed. It had the canopy all snapped in place and everything, and there were tow lines running off of it. And for some reason, it sprang a leak or something, or maybe the storm kicked up. But it sank stern first and drove its stern about 6 feet into the mud in the bottom and stayed that way.
Into the silt because she's that heavy motor on the end. Now there is a cut line that's hanging around the water column, but you see there's lines here and here and here. There's a Danforth anchor that belongs to this boat that is deployed, but it looks like that she was being towed, or they tried to get her not to sink with a tow line. We don't know. But this was a $45,000 boat when she was new, and even in the 80s she cost that much. She's the 26-foot version of the Stinger 390, the Stinger 390 that the Miami Vice guys drove around in Miami Vice. Don Johnson, and I don't remember the name of that other guy, but Crockett and Tubbs. Crockett and Tubbs. So they drove around a bigger version of this boat. Theirs was 39 feet long. This one's 26 feet long. The picture of the blue one right there, obviously it's not the same color scheme, but it's the same decoration scheme. It's the same design, but it's maroon and black.
You can see red. Some of the pictures taken through the windscreen. You can see some of the seat cushions floating up in there.
Yeah, with gravity, they went from one part of the boat to another. Whoop, and you can tell they're sitting by the windscreen. But that's the cover. The zip cover is still on it. Like if we unzipped it, you could get inside the boat, which we won't do because that changes the nature of the wreck site. But luckily, when she sunk into the 6 feet, you can still see the LTD on her side, just like this boat here. So that gives you a nice view of what is actually in the silt, that last half. So.
And by the way, these pictures were taken by an ROV.
Right.
You see the little claw from the ROV.
Yeah. She's 72 feet at the bottom, about 55 feet at the top, 52 to 55 feet. There's a company called Digilabs in Wayzata, and one of those workers called Nick Notham. He helps MHM out with some deeper targets by using his ROV, so we don't have to send divers down. We still can send divers down. This is a very diveable wreck, but if we don't have to, we don't. If we answer the questions we need to answer about the anomaly, we don't have to go back.
And he's also using us to help him test out various navigation systems on his ROV.
Yes, front facing sonar, and so it's a really good relationship where he helps us and we help him, and we get wonderful footage of some of our wrecks. So.
Also, we're finding that ROVs tend to kick up a lot less silt too. Depends on the situation, but
it can help. Fiberglass Sailboat Wreck. This one's from this year. I did have time to actually look through the video footage and get some pictures. I did that with the Larson, but I got to do it with this one. So we just identified this as a small sailboat. Can't say much more that she's got, except that she does have her rudder still attached, and she's white and red.
Yeah, kind of a scow-like bow.
Yeah, kind of blunt. And she's got some levers. A lever.
And a line,
yeah, that's one lever.
A tiller.
And not a whole lot else about her. We have to go back to her and maybe brush her off and then see if we can find any maker's marks or model numbers. But just a cute little small, 12-footer-ish sailboat wreck, fiberglass. This is almost like
It's kind of a step up from a surfboard.
Yeah, it's almost like a paddle board, but it's hollow. So it is a boat. It's not a paddle board. Made out of fiberglass and does have a round hole for a mast. So it's a very small flat sailboat. And there's not a whole lot to say about it except that it's full of zebra mussels in shallow water, and it's a scow shaped sailboat wreck made out of fiberglass. We didn't find any maker's marks. Maybe in the future we could if we went back and cleaned her all off, but right now, don't know. I didn't find any pictures of that look like anything like her on the internet either. Well, that's about it.
Yeah.
For this.
Yeah, we like to put this slide up because we want to reiterate again and again and again that this picture shows a diver's down flag. If you see that on the lake, you're supposed to keep 150 feet away from it.
From all the flags. If we're flying, see in our boat there, Anomaly 51's got a diver down flag on the boat. We also have one in the water, and I've got a sign that your diver's below, stay away 150 feet. And it's 150 feet from all the flags. So if one flag's floating in the water, 150 feet from there, there's one on the boat, 150 feet from there. That's by law, and we own that bit of water while we're there. We're not gonna be there long, so whoever's coming by, please give us space. It's not only that your boat has a propeller on it and you can chop the heads off and kill our divers, but even wakes are dangerous. Don't get too close. It's a smart boating practice. And there's different kinds of dive flags. We own this one. We own different kinds of dive flags that we put out at different places depending on where we are. And lastly, watch out for juvenile northerns. They do bite. That's my leg, and I got bit several years back by a baby northern, and it hurt a lot. They have very sharp teeth. One more thing is we've got our website is there. Our YouTube channel has video. Our website has links to video for our volunteers who have YouTube channels. All of our reports are linked from our website and hosted on the Internet Archive. And you can email us. We have a Facebook page. We have a Twitter account, and we can be communicating through that way. And thanks to Betty Lloyd for our nice little cartoon of Chris and I underwater. We look exactly like that. And that's about it for tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.